Live from the local station, this is Friday Night Lights on News 4 Jax Plus. Presented by Farah and Farah, featuring 1010XL.
And welcome, week number 4, Friday Night Lights on 4 Plus and 1010XL. We're presented by Farah and Farah with Justin Barney, the hacker Ryan Green with you, as we have now entered district play, Justin. Some district games tonight, some rivalry games tonight. Should be a fun night all over Northeast Florida.
Yeah, and after a really good week in week 3 with led by that St. Augustine and Bowles Classic. St. Augustine knocked off number 1 Bowles 40-35 and an epic game of the week. And really, you go from that into a district week here, so that's going to be really fun. A lot on the line, a lot at stake, some really good non-district games too. Mandarin and Bradford going strong. Creekside and Bartram, our varsity 4 game of the week, so a lot of good games in and around our area. Going to be a nice one.
You know, if we rewind the clock back last week, St. Augustine Bowles, clearly the game of the night, maybe the game of the year to this point. As you mentioned, St. Augustine won that game. I also thought statements from Oakleaf and a 31-0 victory over Fleming, and a big statement from Nice, 47-10 over Tallahassee Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln came in here undefeated and did not even put up any type of fight against Nice. Nice has looked really, really good, 47-10. Nice playing Fletcher tonight. Nice won that one last year, 39-0, but what is not going to be this year for Nice and Fletcher is a shutout. Fletcher is on the scoreboard in this one. It's 8-6 Nice early on, so Seatric phase-in, and the Senators trying to end that Nice kind of advantage against them.
We'll give you a complete scoreboard update coming up here in a moment, but as Justin said, one of the games of the night in the area, Mandarin and Bradford County, 2 really good coaching staffs, 2 really good rosters, 2 teams I think they're going to make a deep run in the state playoffs. It's early, but Mandarin up 7-0 on Bradford County.
Yeah, and the question with Bradford, I think, is all the time, do they have enough offense to hang with a team like a Mandarin? You know, Jamie Rogers has done a great job down in Stark in terms of what you're going to get every year from his team, and that's a solid defense, a well-coached unit, a physical, fast, tough defense. But you know, when you get against, you know, games like a Newberry last year or Cocoa a couple years ago, you got to be able to score some points. And Bradford's not been able to do that when they've had those huge games. But their defense has been really, really good. I just question, you know, last year Mandarin and Bradford played. It was our game of the week last year. It was the first game. Knox Annis, second game, Knox Annis was starting after the injury to Tremel Jones, and Mandarin went down to Stark and lost 18-13 in a really, really good back and forth game. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think Mandarin's offense, Knox and Bryson and everybody over there are a little bit more experienced, veterans on that team, and I just don't think Bradford, great defense, but I don't think they have the offense in this one.
We'll see what happens, but clearly 2 of the better teams in the area going at it, Mandarin and Bradford tonight. And quickly, before we give you again a scoreboard update, we look for surprises early on here in the night. Maybe a little bit of a surprise, St. Augustine, Riverside, all tied 7-7.
Yeah, a little bit of surprise. Riverside has had a very, very disappointing start. They're 0-3 going into this one. St. Augustine coming off that huge win last week against Bowles. One big thing to note in that game, Samorian Wingo, the electric wideout, is not playing in that game. He's got a boot on and hurt ankle in that game, so he's not playing. Hopes to be back next week. So interesting to see the offense without a Samorian Wingo, man, but Brenton James looked darn good last week. He's got a rushing touchdown in this one already.
We'll keep you updated on all the big games going on. Again, the Channel 4 game of the week tonight out in St. Johns County.
Yeah, it can be a good battle. Longleaf Pine Parkway. Both those teams winless this year, 0-3, which is a very unique situation for both of those programs to be in. Creekside is 2-16 all time in that series. They won last year. This is a chance for them to do something they've never done in the series, win back-to-back games. And yes, you look at the team 0-3, it's a big donut in the records. Those teams have played unreal competition. Bartram's 3 opponents are combined 8-2. Creekside opponents are combined 9-0. So you're not playing little sisters of the poor. You're playing really quality teams this point in the season. So yeah, you look at this record and say, oh my God, that's glaring. But they're playing really good competition.
And one of the things to note about Creekside in particular, their district is one of the very small districts, right? So you could almost classify this as the preseason before they have those 2 district games later in the year. But again, we'll keep you up to date on every game going on. We'll check in on some games from around the area, give you a complete scoreboard update, plus Justin Barney's Super 10. That's all coming up as we are just underway. We're glad you're with us. The Friday Night Lights on 4+. We are presented by Farah and Farah, and we are glad you are spending part of your Friday evening with us. Back here under the Friday Night Lights, Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters, brings you this week's scoreboard update. We're bringing you scoreboards all night here under the Friday Night Lights. Justin Barney of Channel 4, the hacker Ryan Green of 1010XL. All right, Justin, a lot of 6:30 games actually getting near the half. Matanzas 14-0 over Jackson. Menendez 14-6 over Parker. And the Brain Bowl going on tonight between Stanton and Paxson. Stanton an early 3-0 lead over Paxson.
Yeah, I picked the Golden Eagles in that one, but Stanton's won a couple in a row, so we'll see if the Blue Devils can keep it going. Always one of the best games of the year when you're talking about, and then Wilson is going to be ushered into the Brain Bowl trifecta here soon. But Stanton and Paxson always one of the better games of the year.
Beachside 7-0 over Ponte Vedra down there in St. Johns County. That would certainly be a surprise.
Yeah, Beachside has had a weird start this year. They went on the road, OCP in the first week of the season, and lost that game without quarterback Eddie Jordan. They've struggled a little bit to get things going this year offensively, and they had a big win against Menendez last week, 20-14. But they're used to blowing teams out. They're having to change it up this year and maybe slow things down and win.
Let's head out to Greenland Road. The game of the night, certainly one of the games of the night, is Mandarin and Bradford County, 2 of the better teams in our area. Defensive battle right now, Justin, out there at the Corral on Greenland Road. Mandarin 7-0 right now in the second quarter.
Yeah, and this was a game last year that was our game of the week last year, and it was really the second career start for Knox Annis, the kid right there on the screen, the number 8 jersey, and he had to step into a huge role last year after Tramel Jones was injured in week 2 against Atlantic Coast, and Knox Annis thrown into the fire. Still led Maynard to the playoffs last year, but you feel like this year is more. He's more experienced. He knows the offense better. He looks better as just a player. Last year he was a freshman. He looks like he is really growing into that major college football body over there at Mandarin, and that connection he has with Bryson Wright. Very good running back spot to the side of him too, Shunquez Foster and Kyrie Wilson. So a lot expected off Greenland Road at the Corral this year, and Mandarin getting one of the areas, if not the area's best defense tonight in Bradford. Jamie Rogers and company up here on Greenland Road trying to beat Mandarin for the second year in a row.
Mandarin 3-0 to start the year. Obviously a very good start to the season, which is pretty interesting, Justin, when you consider everything they had to replace. Now, again, their quarterback played a lot last year after Tramel Jones got hurt, but Drake Stubbs is now at Florida. Jamie French is now at Texas. You can go on down the line, and yet Mandarin has replaced all that talent, so going to go 4-0 tonight.
Yeah, and the people do not realize, yes, man, you associate with Bryson Wright, and they've got a lot of talent. They've had a lot of talent for the last few years. You got really good talent on this year's team. Brody Jennings, big time corner. He's having his best season. He's a Miami commit. Really good players on Mandarin now, but they lost a ton to graduation, to transfer, and they are still really, really good. So people expect Mandarin just to roll over all these teams. Now, it's a credit to Coach Toby Bullock and the staff that they've been able to kind of ride those losses in a sense. You can't just replace guys and everything. You got to have some good coaching. You got to count on those younger players to step in, and they have really, really done that so far. This is not the Mandarin team from last year or 2 years ago. This is a team that is really kind of growing up, and they look good so far.
You've covered high school football in our area for a long time. Obviously, you don't even need to be a football fan to understand Bryson Wright. He was all over the news with that catch, the flag football 7-on-7. Only a sophomore at Mandarin High School. I mean, put in context, sophomores in this area, underclassmen in this area, is Bryson Wright one of the best we've ever seen?
Yeah, he has the potential for sure. And when you look at players who have come through here and been, I saw somebody mention the other day on social media that Bryson was the first ever #1 player from our ever national #1 player. That's not true. Robert Pollard, from Bowles in Orange Park was the #1 national recruit, I believe, when he was a sophomore back in the mid-'90s. But Bryson, when you're talking about such a short list, I mean, Bryson is the first one in the modern era in terms of football guy. Antonio Lawrence was another one who played at your alma mater, Wolfson. He was the #1 ranked basketball player, but he was the #1 ranked player in the country when he was a sophomore too.
They went to the state championship game that year with him and Kenny Walker, Will Holloman.
Yep.
It's a great team.
Yeah, and a great team. They lost to Gainesville, I believe, and Orion Green down there in Gainesville during that time. But it's so limited in terms of how many good guys, when I say good, how many #1 type players that we've had, our area had. It is not many. And Bryson Wright right now is the #1 ranked player in the country by Rivals in the class of 2028. So yes, it's extremely unusual for our area to have. I mean, we've had guys like Laramie Tunzel, ESPN had him ranked #3 player in the country. You know, Tim Tebow, CJ Spiller. I mean, Tebow was like 25, and he was a fantastic player. CJ Spiller, unbelievable running back in Union County. I think he was 9, 10, or 11. Gerard Warren at Union County, I think he was a 3rd or 4th ranked player in the country, big money. But you don't have guys like Bryson Wright at all, and especially in this era of NIL and notoriety and social media stuff, Bryson Wright is in a league of his own.
I want to get to your Super 10 in just a moment. There's no doubt that both Bradford and Mandarin are in there. But I told Jamie Rogers this on the radio last week. I told Toby Bullock as well on the radio. Kudos to both of those guys.
Yep.
Bradford does not need to play Mandarin.
Yep.
And Mandarin does not need to play Bradford. But the fact that they agreed to this series makes every fan or whoever covers high school football in our area the better for it. This is fantastic they're playing this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And right after this, Mandarin's got IMG. So it's good to see these out of district, out of the normal realm of these games, because Bradford could play a pinata and beat them, and Mandarin could play another pinata and beat them handily. But I think when you have this competition, a great defense in this area is going to test Mandarin. Big play there defensively. Looked by, I think that was Brody Jennings with a big play there. Talked about him just a minute ago. Big time corner headed to Miami. So he's got 3 picks going into this game. So really good season for him. But yeah, you could play a duck, and a lot of teams do. They do take the easy way out, and it's good to see this game. A game you may not lose, and may not win. Mandarin did not win it last year, but it makes you better. St. Augustine Nice is another one.
Yeah.
We're going to see that one next week. You don't have to play that game. You're not in the same district, but it makes you better.
You saw it last week with St. Augustine Bowls, too.
Right. You get better from playing those games, even if you take an L. If you take one on the chin, I think Mandarin takes one on the chin next weekend against IMG, but you're not going to play a better team than that at all this season. So you learn things from games like this.
Again, a defensive battle out there on Greenland Road. Mandarin 7, Bradford County nothing. About 5 minutes to go in the first half. Justin Barney, I have no doubt that these are 2 of your Super 10. But let's go over week number 4, your top 10 teams in the area.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a change for me here at the top. So, last week, these are actually my last week's rankings. So, St. Augustine moved from 3 to 1 after that win over Bowles. Reigns, of course, stayed at #2, and then Oakleaf at #4. So, we'll go ahead and get these graphics off the screen because these are they didn't get replaced last week. But number 5 for me, I had Nice moving from 6 to 5. Nice, great win over Lincoln last week. Yeah. Mandarin, I had them drop 1 spot. They played Sandalwood, and I thought the better win was Nice over Lincoln. Number 7 is the team we're watching now, Bradford on the screen, playing at Mandarin, so that's 6 and 7 battle. And then 8, 9, and 10, I've got basically 2 of the same teams. I have Columbia at 8, Ed White at 9, and newcomer Bishop Kinney in the rankings at number 10 this week. So some changes in my rankings, but man, after last week, and then we roll right into this week, great week of football. It's bound to change again.
3 weeks in, hard to believe some teams will hit the halfway point next week, which is crazy to think about. Our teams are who they are at this point. Do you have a pretty good grasp on the teams coming into the 4th week of the year?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've seen enough through really the first month of the season to kind of form your own opinion. There haven't been any seismic injuries like Tramell Jones last year at Mandarin that really kind of changed the trajectory of Mandarin. I thought Mandarin was a potential state championship team last season until that loss. And you had Jamie French getting banged up, a lot of injuries across that Mandarin team last season. So, I think you know who these teams are at this point.
To update you on a couple of scores, Paxson has taken a 13-3 lead over Stanton. Neese and Fletcher still 8-6. We haven't talked a lot about Seatric Faison and the Fletcher Senators out there. A very quiet, undefeated team, giving Neese some trouble here early.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, 39-0 last year, Neese over Fletcher in that game. So a little bit more of a defensive struggle early on for Neese. But Neese has been mowing down teams, averaging over 40 a game. And you hit a Fletcher team that feels like they're maybe a little bit disrespected, haven't got a lot of love, haven't got a lot of attention in rankings and stuff. And probably for good reason, because you haven't played really anybody in schedule-wise. When, Reball, Atlantic Coast Park, you don't play that extreme schedule so far, so it's easy to kind of overlook you. So this is a chance for Fletcher and Seatric Faison to say, hey, beat their chest and say, we're for real. You've been kind of underestimating us, and here's proof that we deserve to be mentioned with the great ones.
St. Augustine has taken a 21-7 lead over Riverside. And how about Rains down in the Orlando area, taking on a Lake Mary team that is way bigger in student population. Rains playing way above in the classification tonight. Yeah, Rains up 7-3 early down in Orlando.
Yeah, not a surprise there. Lake Mary is a team that played for a state championship last year. They've got a quarterback, Noah Grubbs, who's going to Notre Dame. They haven't had the great start. Of course, Lake Mary has beaten Osceola, beaten Miami Norland, two really good teams. Got drilled last week by Lakeland. But really credit to Rains for scheduling this game. Rains needs some challenges on the schedule because they lost their week 1 opponent, Miami Central, which would have been a fantastic game. And then you got Lake Mary now, and then you're off next week. And then after that, you play no one.
Yeah.
You play Yulee. That's your only team on the schedule left, a team with above 1 win at this point. So you need these types of games. Rains, I think, is absolutely legit. I think they're better than they were last year, but it's tough to tell when you're not playing the good team.
Are they a victim of their own success because nobody wants to play them?
I think so. I think when you get a ton of transfers, when you're really good, coming off a state championship team, teams don't want to schedule you unless they have to. And, Trinity Christian went through that during years. Bowles went through that for years. So I think it's a problem of Donovan Maslin being too good for his own success when teams around here don't want to play. Bowles dropped Rains to play Monarch, and then Rains went out and got Miami Central and didn't have that game fulfilled due to a cancellation in that game. So yeah, a little bit different.
Again, you're watching action on Greenland Road, Mandarin, and Bradford County. That's a lot of running for not a lot of result there. He probably ran about 50 yards. I think ultimately gained about 5. And again, this defensive battle continues between the Tornadoes and the Mustangs.
Yeah, Bryson Wright with a big carry. Anytime he touches the ball, you're expecting him to maybe go to the house. And why don't we switch over from our Greenland Road battle over to Longleaf Pine in our Varsity 4 game of the week. This is a good one between Creekside and Bartram Trail. We're going to stay with this one for a little bit of time and got some scoring updates from this Bartram Trail Creekside game. Arthur Lewis with a 4-yard touchdown catch from Colson Baum for Bartram to get them on the board. DeMarco with a 37-yard interception return to set that up. And then Baldwin with an 8-yard run for Creekside to tie this game back up. So we're at 7-all in our Varsity 4 game of the week. And the thing with Bartram and Creekside, this game means so much to that Northwest community, Northwest St. John's community. These kids know each other. They played together forever. They grew up together. It's a very spirited rivalry. And I was out at Creekside practice this week, and I talked to Jackson Earl, and I said, what is it about this game that makes you really so hyped? And he said, we played middle school football with these guys. We grew up with a lot of these guys, and now they go to a neighboring school. You want to beat them. You want to beat your friends. It's a measuring stick game, too. So many crazy things happen in this series and this rivalry, and it's just a great game. And when we picked this game of the week, we didn't expect them to be 0-3. But again, I touched on how good the competition has been for both these schools. But just such a fun game every year this game is.
Who do you get the sense needs this game more? Who needs to stop the bleeding worse tonight? Bartram or Creekside?
You got Bartram has to stop the bleeding. It's the worst start for Bartram Trail, I think, ever. Or maybe they started 0-4. I'm mistaken. So one of their worst starts ever. Corey Johns, I'm sure he hears it from parents, and when you replace a legend
Well,
like Daryl Sutherland,
he's the guy following the guy, and that's
yeah.
not a good position to be in, quite frankly.
It's Kalen DeVore in a sense.
Yes,
You have all these expectations, and the guy you replaced was an icon of the community, and Daryl Sutherland, one of the best men that I've ever known personally, a great, great guy. And yeah, you're used to being on the other side of the ball. Bartram used to being 3-0 or 2-1 going into this game, and to be 0-3 and to have the offensive struggles that they've had so far. Colson Baum has struggled. Arthur Lewis has struggled to get going. I preface it by saying these guys have played very good teams, but yeah, you're not used to being 0-3. And Creekside, as you talked about earlier, they've got a pretty simple district: Atlantic Coast and Sandalwood.
Yeah,
you got to win 2 of those games against 2 of the easiest teams on your schedule. I mean, Sandalwood's lost 23 in a row.
They should win both of those games.
Yes,
quite frankly, they'll be the favorite.
Yeah, so Creekside could conceivably go 2-8 and be a district champ and go to the playoffs. So Bartram is in a different position, much tougher district. And after last season, you go 4-6, you get hammered by Tocoy Creek, a county rivalry game. You need this game.
Before we step aside, another score to pass on. Bowles, an early 9-0 lead over Bishop Kenny. Bishop Kenny put a running clock on Tocoy Creek last week. They also beat University Christian. This is not going to be easy for Bowles tonight, coming off of that loss last week against St. Augustine, but Bowles off to a good early start.
Yeah, not surprising there. And a couple years ago in 2022, Bishop Kenny won 14-13 and ended a 0-27 streak against Bowles. Last time Bishop Kenny had won in that series before 2022 was all the way back in 1977. Were you even around, Hacker?
I was here in 1983,
okay,
so I was not present.
You were not even a thought at that point. I was a year old the last time Bishop Kenny had beaten Bowles, so it felt good for those guys, Bishop Kenny, to beat Bowles for that first time. And I think Bowles since then has said, okay, for so long, Bowles had just assumed, hey, we're going to romp over these guys. And history said the same thing. We're going to crush these guys. And that was a wake-up call I think Bowles needed. I don't think Bishop Kenny's going to ever catch Bowles sleepwalking as long as his current coaching staff is there. Not surprising at all, especially after last week, what St. Augustine did to them defensively. I think Bowles is going to come back with that vice lock grip this week on defense.
He is Justin Barney of Channel 4. I'm the hacker Ryan Green of 1010XL, and this is the Friday Night Lights on 4+. We are presented by Farah and Farah. More scores to come your way, more live look-ins at both Mandarin and Bradford and Bartram Trail Creekside. We're with you till 9 o'clock, Jacksonville. We're glad you're with us under the Friday Night Lights. Back here under the Friday Night Lights on 4+, presented by Farah and Farah. Justin Barney, the hacker Ryan Green with you. Again, one of the games of the night in the area, Mandarin and Bradford County. Let's do a live look-in out on Greenland Road. Mandarin 7-0 as they are getting near halftime. Only 35 seconds to go in the first half. One of the big stories for Bradford County is that Jamie Rogers is still at Bradford County. When Baker County came open this offseason, everybody thought Jamie might go back home, right?
Yeah.
He played at Baker County. He coached Baker County to a state championship game some years ago. He decided to stay at Bradford, and I know they were thrilled about that.
Yeah, and you can't blame Jamie. He's had so much success. He's won at Swanee, took them to a Final Four, took Baker County, his alma mater, to a state championship game. He went up to Georgia, had a cup of coffee up there, and then came back down here, and he has really put the infrastructure in place in Stark to have something continually going and going and going. And when you build something at a program like that, I look at what Joey Wiles did at St. Augustine. I look what Brian Braddock has done at St. Augustine. You put that in place, those guardrails in place, and you can just watch it grow and see it just continue to grow. And Jamie has really done that down in Bradford. And I don't know why you would leave, because you got a good thing going there, beautiful new turf field. You can kind of write your own check down there as long as you keep winning. He's got some talented players and a great staff working for him too, and I think he is very comfortable down there.
Again, you're an encyclopedia when it comes to high school football knowledge in our area. Why was Bradford County football not what it is now before Jamie arrived?
Yeah, I think it was just the turnover of coaches. You had guys that would come there and stay there for a cup of coffee. And, Ryan Solkowski, rest in peace to Ryan, was a good guy, but he came in there and stayed there just for a little bit of time. Had some success, but moved on quickly. Tom McPherson went in there, a little bit of success. he's gone. John Staples, I mean, you have these guys coming in and really not staying that long, and you didn't have this 15-year stretch run of guys, trying to think of the other guy, Carl something. I mean, you have all these men coming in there, and they just weren't there long enough for whatever reason to really build something and put something in place that stuck. And, Jamie has done a great job. He did a great job at Baker County, led them to the state championship game, of course, got annihilated by Plantation American Heritage like so many of our other teams have done. But he is doing really, really good in Stark.
And Bradford, there was like the interception. There was like a flag on the play. We'll see if it holds up. Mandarin trying to get some points before the half against 7-0 Mandarin, looking to add to their lead. And I got to tell you, Justin, with these defenses, if Mandarin were to go up by 2 scores here, Bradford would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and last year it was very similar. I mean, Bradford and Mandarin win this slug out of a game, and I think it was 13-12 maybe, or 13-10, and Bradford scored with a few minutes left in the game last year to win 18-13. So stranger things have happened. Bradford was down last week in South Sumter and ended up coming back and winning 14-12. You can't count them out. They went to the state championship game. They won a state semifinal game at their place. I want to say it was against Pensacola Catholic in a game they had no business winning. So you never count out Bradford. I've seen them win some pretty crazy games. And with this defense, their defense creates offense, and we've seen that time and again.
We'll keep an eye on this until the halftime buzzer, and then we'll head back to Bartram Trail, Creekside out there in St. Johns County. A couple of scores to update you on. Nice has scored a touchdown. They now lead Fletcher 15-6. You got a couple of ones. Riverside has narrowed the gap. It's now 21-14. St. Augustine over Riverside. Riverside giving them a battle. And again, it's early. Orange Park 7-6 over Fleming Island. Is this Marcus Wimberly's best team at Orange Park?
It's looking like it. If they can. To me, his biggest win was last week against Riverside, 23-21. Great win for Marcus. And Orange Park has kind of been, I'd say, one of the teams that has been passed in Clay County by other programs. The Oakleafs, the Middleburgs, in a sense, the Flemings have really kind of raced past one of the county's oldest programs. So it's refreshing to see Orange Park kind of muscle its way in and get back in there and not just be kind of a 2.5 or 3 school county in terms of Fleming, Oakleaf, and Middleburg to an extent. They've done great under Ryan Wolf. So, yeah, if Orange Park can maybe topple Fleming Island, Tom McPherson going against his old school tonight at Orange Park. It'll be interesting to see if Marcus Wimberly can get this one.
Halftime, Mandarin 7, Bradford County nothing. Now let's head back out to St. Johns County. Again, 2 teams in desperate need of a win. And not only would it be a win, but it would be county bragging rights between Bartram Trail and Creekside. 2 teams that really need a W tonight.
Yeah, our cameraman Walter doing a great job there on the shot there with Bartram Trail. 7-all at the end of the first quarter. Getting ready to start the second quarter there on Longleaf Pine Parkway. My kids are at the game tonight, Creekside students, so they're pulling for their school there tonight. And a lot of other people in St. Johns County at that game tonight, too. The thing with Creekside, to me, is they had a better team in spring, and they lost some guys due to transfer on the defensive side of the ball. The thing with Creekside, to me, is you graduated so much from last year's team. Sean Ashenfelder, Harrison Garrido, Birch at receiver. You graduated so much on the offensive side of the ball that was just going to naturally be a step back this year. So they are extremely, extremely young. But Sean McIntyre, like we talked about a little bit ago, all they need to do is win 2 games. All they need to do is win 2 games to get in the playoffs.
Now, is the struggles of Bartram and Creekside this year, again, is that the Tecoy beachside factor? Is talent getting a little thinned out in St. Johns County because so many schools have opened in recent years?
Yeah, I think a combination of both. I think you have lost some talent to other schools. I mean, you've lost talent to Duval County schools. I said last week, Jaden Weatherly was a Bartram Trail kid, zoned for Bartram. He's now at Bowles. Astor Gitto, zoned for Bartram. He's playing at Bowles. You have a lot of those guys going to different places because you don't have to stay and play at your neighborhood school anymore due to the open enrollment changes. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of everything, and you can't be there's always a little bit of a decline at some point. You know, St. Augustine is the one I look at like a great example. I mean, when Joey Wiles was there, automatic. You're going to win 8, 9, 10 games every regular season and almost get spoiled in a sense. And I think, for Bartram's perspective, when Sutherland was there, you were used to making the playoffs every year. I mean, winning 7, 8, 9 games every season. And I think you get a little bit spoiled of that too. So when you have those natural valleys that accompany a lot of sports teams, it's natural to kind of wonder that, man, maybe have they lost it or what's the reason for? But I think it's cyclical.
Speaking of St. Johns County, Justin, Tocoi Creek 21-7 over the Clay Blue Devils right now. We also mentioned Beachside earlier taking on Ponte Vedra. The last score we still have is Beachside 7-0 over Ponte Vedra. That would be a pretty significant upset if Beachside were able to pull that off. By the way, we do have something to update as well in the St. Augustine Riverside game. St. Augustine has punched one in. They now take a 28-14 lead over Riverside approaching halftime.
Yeah, not surprising. Surprising Riverside has really made that a game. Another one, Rains at Lake Mary. It's 10-3 right now, Rains. And a big, to me, one of the unsung moves this year. We talk about Rangers, Timothy Cole, the defense, Troy Butler, Tony Williams. They've got a kicker this year, Dan DeWong, from, it kind of came out of nowhere. He's a kid from Vietnam, and he transferred over here, and he's playing at Rains. He is a good kicker. He's a little bit undersized, but you look at him, this kid can kick. Mm-hmm. And for a Gateway team, having a reliable kicker that you can trot out for a field goal. I have so many Rains teams I've seen in the past. You're inside the 20 on 4th down, and you got to go for it because you know you can't kick a field goal. But the weapon that Dan is with his leg gives Rains the opportunity to boot some field goals and take the points. And they've done that so far tonight with the field goal there from Dan. So an asset for Rains to watch as they get further and further into the season. Looks like Creekside is going to get in the end zone there. If that one stands, that's a touchdown run for the Knights, and it looks like they may go up in this rivalry game against Bartram Trail. 14-7 pinned in this PAT. If that touchdown stands, and it looks like it will stand, so Creekside Knights going to go up. Davis Baldwin, his second rushing touchdown of the game for the Knights. And all of a sudden, we got the Knights going up, pinning this PAT, 13-7 now in our Varsity 4 game of the week. Creekside, a little bit of surprise there.
Yeah, we're objective broadcast journalists, certainly. It's hard not to root for Sean McIntyre of Creekside. You want to talk about one of the good guys in the area? Coach McIntyre is certainly that.
Yeah, but he and Corey both are really good guys. And I think with St. Johns County as a whole, I don't know Anthony Rivers that well down at Menendez. He's just in his second year there. Know the other coaches pretty well. Steve Price, really good guy. Corey Johns, good guy. Sean McIntyre, good guy.
Braddock, salt of the earth.
Braddock is fantastic. Kyle Drafts, really, really good guy. Yeah. So many good coaches and families down there in St. Johns County. Man, really good to see Sean McIntyre. He had success at Mandarin as an offensive coordinator with Brian Braddock during his Braddock's 3 years there. And Sean has really built Creekside into a stable program. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in St. Johns County too. So that's saying something.
Friday Night Lights on 4+, presented by Farah and Farah with Justin Barney, the hacker Ryan Green with you. We'll come back with a complete scoreboard update. We'll talk a little Bowls, Bishop Kenny. Also an interesting game between Providence and Episcopal. We'll get into all of it as the Friday Nights roll on, presented by Farah and Farah.
It's time for another look at the high school scoreboard, brought to you by Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters.
Back here under the Friday Night Lights on 4+, complete scoreboard update to give to you. Some really interesting scores rolling in. Got to talk about the brain ball first, man. Paxton and Stan, that's just a lot of fun. I talked to Marty Lee on the radio show this week, the AD out at First Coast. He raves about the Paxton-Stanton game every year. You called it. Paxton up 21-3 now in the second quarter.
Yeah, no surprise there. Paxton's really, really good. They play in the Sunshine State Athletic Association, and I think more teams should do that because it's really given programs like Paxton and Stanton more of a runway to actually compete.
West Nassau,
Fernandina Beach, to have that success. And Paxton to me last year would have probably played for a state championship. unfortunate situation. There was a fight at the end of their playoff game, which they were winning. And another touchdown there from Creekside.
Wow.
And they are about to go up 2 full scores here. Another one there. Jackson Earl, the safety / running back, senior. He is in there. And we're 20-7 right now. What a change of pace in this game. And that last touchdown by Baldwin, I thought it was a Baldwin touchdown run, but it was not. It was a swing pass on 4th and 3 to get that into the end zone. So 2 touchdowns for Baldwin, so 1 reception, 1 rushing, and that one there from Jackson Earl. And Creekside is up now 21-7 over Bartram Trail. And I'm not there at the Bartram game, but I imagine there's some stunned fans right now. My son just texted me and said 20 now they have. So, the Bartram crowd is probably pretty silent right now.
Big surprise for you right now? The Creekside's up 2 scores?
Big surprise. I thought with Bartram playing Ware County last week, as tough as they did, you got a great running back in Arthur Lewis. You've just not been able to get it going for whatever reason for Bartram Trail. Very, very surprising that it's been like this for Bartram. You're staring an 0-4 start in the face if you can't flip this game around in a hurry, and be a big win for Creekside if they can hold on. And Creekside got that ball back off of a pooch kick that was mishandled by a Bartram player. So all facets working right now for Sean McIntyre and the Knights.
Let me throw a couple other scores at you. Nice 15-6 over Fletcher. That's at halftime. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. Matanzas 14-6 over Jackson. That surprised you at all in the second quarter?
I don't think. I think I've got Matanzas winning that game. I can't remember the score I predicted, but I know I picked Matanzas in that game. Last week, seeing Jackson against University Christian and a little bit of the struggles there. I know UC's a better team than Matanzas, but Matanzas is a quality team, and I think they're going to win that one big tonight.
Oakleaf 7-0 over Hawthorne. It's a game we haven't talked about yet. Hawthorne's always good. They're state championship good in their classification.
Yep.
Oakleaf, a much bigger school, but still a very good game between them and Hawthorne.
And Hawthorne won that game last year over Oakleaf, so this is a game, Oakleaf and Hawthorne, that Coach Chris Pavoy had circled on his calendar because they wanted another shot at Hawthorne, which was a 10-win team last year, a really, really good team down there. And I think Cornelius Ingram.
Yeah, that's Cornelius Ingram,
coaching down there, Old Gator. So very, very good team. And I know when people look at classifications and everything, say, Oakleaf, why is a 6A team playing a rural team? Hawthorne is not the typical rural team.
No.
They are a quality program.
Fleming Island 13-7 over Orange Park. How about this? First Coast 7-0 over Baker County in the second quarter.
Yeah, would not have seen that one coming. Baker County last week didn't play well against Ponte Vedra. Had tough defending the pass of Cole Rosendahl. So a little surprised to see First Coast winning in that one. Long time left to go though.
Bowles 9-0 over Bishop Kenny. We'll get back to that in one moment. Also Providence 14-0 over Episcopal, and University Christian down in Tampa tonight, taking on Tampa Catholic. David Penland and UC, they like to travel, certainly, and they're doing it in Tampa, an early 7-0 lead for UC.
Yeah, not surprised at that. UC, to me, this year could be the year to beat Trinity Christian and get back into that state semifinal game. It didn't happen last year. Trinity made the state semifinals, but really impressed with University Christian this year. Probably should be undefeated. They lost to Bishop Kenny 21-20 in week 2. A game that they lost on a block PAT, so an unusual finish there that prevented UC from being perfect at this point in the season. But I think UC always going to come down to UC and Trinity Christian in the regional final.
Pretty big upset brewing. Again, long time to go. Beachside has regained the lead, 14-13 over Ponte Vedra late in the second quarter.
Yeah, a little bit of surprise there with Beachside's struggles this season so far without quarterback. Their starting quarterback, Eddie Jordan, for a portion of the season. But, yeah, if you can win this game, you are right back into the conversation of areas best teams in St. Johns County, right there along with Nice and St. Augustine. But, yeah, to be the number 3 team in St. Johns County really means you're doing something good.
And quickly, Bowles, as we said, 9-0 over Bishop Kenny. Surprised it's so low scoring, these two really high-powered offenses. Bishop Kenny hanging around, though. Again, 9-0 in the second quarter.
Yeah, good start for Bishop Kenny when you don't have anything on the scoreboard, but hold that Bulls team, which we saw last week. Xander Edwards running like a freight train last week. Big running back there. Battle of two of the area's best running backs. Caleb Madison at Bishop Kenny and Xander Edwards at Bowles. So two excellent running backs squaring off in that one. That one's on one of your radio stations.
It's on both 1010 AM and 92.5 FM, no question. As we're taking a live look in again down in St. Johns County, the Channel 4 game of the week with Creekside and Bartram Trail. Bartram trying to get something going. They're down 13, 2 touchdowns to Creekside. It's not panic time yet for the Bears, but you definitely know they want to cut into this before halftime.
Yeah, 21-7 right now. Creekside is up. It looks like Bartram going in a little bit of a wildcat here right now with no Colson Baum in at quarterback, and
he's going to throw it.
The double pass.
Oh, the double back to the. Oh, this could be good.
I like it. I like the play here.
Oh,
and the helmet comes off. What a hit there from Creekside. That great play there by Corey John's play call there pays off. Big play there on the double pass.
That was a great play all the way around. Great play by the
good
offense, and what a stick by the defense.
Great camera work there from our guy Walter up top the press box. So Bartram Trail trying to get something going. Good play there for the Bartram Trail Bears offensively. They've not had much luck getting anything going. Nice field painted too, and the blue numbers. Guys at Bartram Trail, people probably don't know, but Bartram Trail's field was built by the NFL back in 2004 and 2005. Like Brian Harris there with a big stop. Good defensive play from the Knights. But Bartram Trail's field was built by the NFL to have the AFC champion, at the time, the Patriots, train there for the 2005 Super Bowl. Do you know that, Hacker?
I did not know that, no.
Yeah, Bartram Trail actually hosted the Patriots back in 2005 when the Super Bowl was here in Jacksonville. So a little bit of a backstory there. Bartram Trail's field, they chose it because Bartram at the time, back in 2005, there was basically one way in and one way out. You could control the whole narrative and traffic and everything coming in there. The NFL picked Bartram Trail. They had a guy named George Toma, a legendary field designer, go in and tear the whole field out at Bartram Trail, build an entire new field up to NFL specifications so the Patriots could train on it. Hurricanes came through there and wiped it out, so Bartram, the NFL was planning on spending about $200,000 on that field at Bartram Trail. After all the hurricane damage and having to rebuild it 1.5 times after the multiple hurricanes, ended up costing about $500,000 for that field. So yeah, Bartram Trail's field is built by the NFL, and the drainage and everything there is top notch. The field was built to exactly replicate the field at what is now Everbank Stadium in 2005. Of course, the Patriots beat the Eagles for the Super Bowl that year, and what a fun time to be in Jacksonville.
We'll certainly continue live look-ins for both Bartram Trail and Creekside. They're getting close to second half action out on Greenland Road as well between Bradford County and Mandarin. Scores all over Northeast Florida as we have reached halftime on the Friday Night Lights on 4+. We are presented by Farah and Farah. He is Justin Barney. I'm the hacker Ryan Green with you till 9 o'clock, Jacksonville, and we are certainly glad you are with us right here under the Friday Night Lights. Back here under the Friday Night Lights on 4+, presented by Farah and Farah with Justin Barney, the hacker Ryan Green with you. Justin, as we continue to do our live look-ins, Bartram and Creekside still going at it in second quarter action. Creekside up 2 touchdowns and on the move as we take a live look-in out there at Bartram Trail High School. There are a lot of teams, and again, we only do 2 hours a week. We can't talk about all of them. But now 3 weeks in, there are a lot of teams that are undefeated that certainly deserve some conversation.
Yep.
Let me throw some of these teams at you and just get a quick thought from you on them. We'll begin with the Fletcher Senators. Losing to Nice right now, although it's a competitive game at halftime, but Fletcher entered tonight 3-0 on the year.
Yeah, and kind of what I'll say about Fletcher, you got to play some teams before you get into these games, but I think Seatric Faison, this may be the best team that he's had in his tenure as coach. Now, he's had some really good players, but I think collectively he's got his best grouping of guys. But when Nice is really the most difficult team you played in the first month, I think the Gateway Conference being down, outside of You got Reigns and Mandarin at the top, and then you've got that next cut of teams, Fletcher, Ed White, those kind of guys. And when you get beyond that, it's really pretty diluted. So Fletcher's played Ribault, not really a good team in rebuilding. And then you play Atlantic Coast, not on your level. And then I think they played Parker as well, so you're not really challenged heading into this game. So I really, you look at that 3-0 record and say, yeah, you could be playing more difficult opponents, but they're doing that tonight against Nice and banging with them pretty well.
Yeah, 15-6 Nice at halftime. A little outside of the radio listening area for us on 1010, but certainly in the television viewing area for you guys here at Channel 4. And that's Brian Allen and the Lake City Columbia Tigers, also 3-0.
They are really, really good this year. They brought back a lot of talent. A lot of the guys last year on Columbia were young, very young, and you saw that in some games. But they brought back just about everybody. They got a big-time transfer, Cam Mills. Really good team out in Columbia and Lake City for Brian Jackson. And if they can stay healthy, which they've had some injuries both last year and this year, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be a good push. And they've got St. Augustine in a couple weeks, which is going to be a heck of a game.
You know, everybody in Clay County, we always talk about Oakleaf. If you're not talking about Oakleaf, you talk about Fleming Island. That was the big game last week. How about a little love for the Broncos of Middleburg? Ryan Wolf, very quietly, has done good work out there the last couple of years. They're undefeated at 3-0 right now.
Yeah, and the thing with Middleburg, they haven't played. They're building up to be able to play these really good teams frequently. So the book on Middleburg is, they've done extremely well, but you're not playing the creme de la creme in terms of the quality of competition. They're beating Zarephath Academy pretty good tonight. But you're not playing the elite teams, and that's okay. That's fine, because it's almost the sense I look back at Nice. When Tim Tebow got there in 2003, they were everybody's homecoming game. And by the time in 2004, they put a schedule together where they were not really playing good teams, but you're still kind of building up to that point. And by 2005, Tebow's senior year, they're opening it up with Hoover, Alabama on national TV on ESPN. So I think what Middleburg is doing is good, because you want to build and you want to put things in place to have a true program. And sometimes that requires playing a schedule that's not really light, because you're going to get your teeth kicked in by some of these good teams. And there's nothing wrong with what Middleburg has done, because I think Ryan Wolf, give him 5 more years there, and you're going to talk in the same kind of chasm about Middleburg as you do about Orange Park, or you do about Oakleaf or Fleming Island. He's getting there. He's just building that back up. And when everybody's at Fleming Island or Oakleaf, and you've got to get to that point where you get the kids to stay and buy in and invest, and he is doing a great job of that.
One thing about Middleburg, too, they always have offensive linemen, they always have running backs, and they're always very, very physical out there in Clay County. Briefly, because I want to expand on this a little bit, Nassau County, Fernandina Beach, West Nassau, and Yulee, at the time we're talking right now, I believe are undefeated.
Yeah.
All 3 of them in Nassau County. I can't remember the last time that's happened.
I'll tell you when the last time it happened. Never.
Okay, there you go.
It has never happened. So I was out there this past week and did a spray at each school. And now it's Fernandina Beach, Yulee, and West Nassau this week, and I had a chance to talk to players and coaches. And it's such a good thing to see in that county, because it's never happened where they've all been, West Nassau, Fernandina Beach, 4-0. They're in the Sunshine State Athletic Association. So they played a week earlier. So their kickoff classics were regular season games. And then Yulee. Yulee was 9-3 2 years ago, fell to 2-8, and now they're 3-0. They've already passed their win total from last year.
And they beat Union County and Charlton County out of Georgia.
Yep. So it's never been done. Yulee's their best start since Derrick Henry's sophomore year in 2010. Fernandina Beach, their best start since 2007. West Nassau's best start since 2018, but they've never been collectively unbeaten at this point in the season ever. So it's remarkable to see what they're doing. West Nassau's got a beautiful new turf football field. Those guys play here soon. West Nassau and Yulee square off, and then West Nassau and Fernandina Beach. So it is remarkable to see schools like that, and it goes back to like the Sunshine State Athletic Association.
Yeah.
You go and you get into that conference, and you actually have something to play for. It's so rewarding for those kids in that community to have something to actually play for.
And for people that don't know, I assume most of our audience does, but West Nassau is a great example. West Nassau consistently would go 6-4, 7-3, and they'd play Rains in the first round, and that's just not going to work, obviously. But now, because they're not in the, because I don't even call it a lower classification, they're in their different classification. Now they have an opportunity to make playoff runs. Those kids have an opportunity to play 13, 14 games and win a state championship. I know some people criticize Fernandina, West Nassau, Paxton, Stanton for doing it. I applaud them for doing it.
100%. And that was my argument the other day when I'm talking to, I think it was Gunnar Cox's dad I was talking to out there the other day. So many, at West Nassau, so many of those teams in the past, West Nassau, when Ricky Armstrong or Casey Teeley were coaching out there, you knew exactly what was going to happen. You were in a district with Rains and Bowls, both, or one of the other, and you were going to go 6-4, 7-3, and get your helmet busted in by Rains or Bowls, and you had no chance at ever making the playoffs. So the Sunshine State Athletic Association come along, and it's developed. It's got over 100 teams in there now, and I wish more teams from our area would go that route because, Stanton and Paxton did it, and Paxton would have probably played for a state championship in the SSAA last year had they not been forced to forfeit in their playoff path. So I think it is remarkable. There are so many teams now that are in districts that don't belong in districts. Wolfson, no offense to Wolfson, you don't belong in a district because you're not going to be able to compete with those guys.
And some coaches there knew that and left the job as a result because that's ridiculous. I mean, Wolfson has to play district game against Bowls coming up in a couple of weeks. That's preposterous.
It's ridiculous. So to me, if you're a Wolfson type of program, even Sandalwood now, I think you pull out of your district and you reset and you get into the SSAA and you compete. And maybe in a few years, you're able to get up and play in a district again and compete. But at my point, argument for teams getting out of districts and going into that is you just can't compete. And it does no good for the players. It does nothing for Bowls to have to play. It's such a bad experience for both teams because
potentially a dangerous experience too.
It's not good. And you're going to see so many other teams are in that same position where it would be great to see them go SSAA and compete because SSAA now is actually a legitimate path for a lot of these teams. You're playing good teams. I mean, last year, Fernandina Beach made the state championship game in the SSAA. They played Frostproof. Frostproof's won multiple state championships in the FHAA. I mean, it's unbelievable. So you have teams like that are playing there. That lends a lot of credibility to that league, and I applaud West Nassau, Fernandina Beach for going that path, Stanton, Paxton, because you have a chance. You're playing with teams that are close to your stature, and it's a win-win. I think it's such a unifier, great for the student body, and it's a great experience, I think, for the players.
We got more 3-0 teams I want to discuss with Justin Barney. Also, we have teams traveling. We got Rains down in Orlando tonight. We got University Christian down in Tampa tonight. How are those teams faring? We'll keep you updated on Creekside and Bartram Trail, the Channel 4 game of the week. Right now, Creekside up 2 touchdowns, and Mandarin and Bradford County about to start second half action on Greenland Road. Jacksonville, we're with you till 9 o'clock. We are absolutely loaded up tonight. It is the Friday Night Lights on 4+, presented by Farah and Farah. Night Lights on 4+, presented by Farah and Farah. We're glad you're with us with Justin Barney of Channel 4, the hacker Ryan Green from 1010XL. And let's do a live look-in in St. Johns County. Creekside already up 2 touchdowns, getting near the half, Justin. And Creekside just hits a deep pass inside the Bartram red zone, looking to add to this lead before the halftime break.
Yeah, it looked like Garen Blaylock was on the receiving end from Rozzie Sperry, and Creekside knocking on the door again. Can you believe? I'm surprised at this game right here, how it is going 21-7. The Creekside Knights knocking on the door again. Rozzie Sperry has already thrown 1 touchdown pass and looking to add another one there. And
throws that away. Good decision.
There, but we're getting close to halftime in this one. And Creekside 21-7 over Bartram Trail. Very just surprised at Bartram's lack of offense. And hey, great to see Creekside with that defense and playing well, but I just continue to be surprised that Bartram struggles on the offensive side of the ball.
To update you, Bowles and Bishop Kenny, a game you can actually hear on both 1010 AM and 92.5 FM. Bowles 29-0. I think Bowles is taking out their aggression after last week's loss on Bishop Kenny.
Yeah, and you knew that was going to happen because I think Bowles probably got coached up this past week at practice. Not happy at all. I could hear Matt Toblin and Josh Hoekstra, Manny Wellington screaming at their guys this week. You can't have that happen. You can't have that happen. St. Augustine, great team, but you can't give up 28 in the first half alone and expect to win that game. So, yeah, I imagine both those teams got coached up this week on how to play better defense.
Let's quickly talk about some other 3-0 teams that maybe don't get a lot of attention. And let's begin with Baldwin and their head coach, who has the best name in the area.
Best name.
And it's not even close. Don Velvet and the Baldwin Indians. Coach Velvet has Baldwin 3-0. They're playing Union County tonight, clearly their toughest test of the year.
Yeah.
And I have Baldwin winning that game early on, 7-0.
Yeah, it's surprising. I picked Union County in that game. I think the first time that Baldwin beat Union County was when I was at the Times Union, so probably in 2017, 2016, something like that. So they don't beat Union County too often. So, yeah, Don Velvet. I hear Don Velvet was a really good high school player as well. So he has got the Baldwin Indians knocking on the door of 4-0 if they can win this one in Lake Butler tonight. So, yeah, very good start for Baldwin. Very good.
Episcopal's also 3-0 with head coach Marcus Wells. Not looking good right now. Providence up 21-7 in the second quarter. Your thoughts on that score and on Episcopal's 3-0 start?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Episcopal is down that big. Providence has had a tough start, although they played some good teams. They've lost, got blown out by Carrollwood Day, lost to Palatka last week in a tough game. I think 40-35 as well was the score in that one. And Providence had been playing some tough teams, so you talk about Bowles getting some aggression out on Bishop Kenny tonight. I think Providence was getting out a little bit of that their struggles against the good teams, taking that frustration out on Episcopal. Episcopal hasn't played a really difficult schedule, and I think Providence has, so probably the reason for that score.
Tell us a little bit about Old Plank. They're off to a 3-0 start as well.
Yeah, Old Plank is another team that newer program. They've been around for a while in other sports, but football, they're relatively new, 3 or 4 years old. Frank Andrea, the coach down there, I've known him for a little bit of time. He actually is playing St. Joseph tonight, place he coached, where I met Frank Andrea probably 20 years ago, when he was coach down at St. Joseph. So he kind of was thrust into that role to take that head coaching role this off season, and he has done a remarkable job there. Really good quality man as well. So he's trying to get his defenders to 4-0. Tough test against HO, though.
We started the Friday Night Lights radio show in 2007. I think Frank Andrea was one of my first guests that I ever had on about 18 or 19 years ago. Long time. I go way back with Coach Andrea as well.
Yeah, he's a really good guy, and good to see him still healthy and coaching all these years later.
And then finally, Ed White. Now, they're only 2-0 because they had the Week 2 bye, which was interesting. Playing Inglewood tonight. Don't know the score on that. I don't feel comfortable going with what we have. So we're going to hold off on the score, but Ed White is undefeated at 2-0 playing Inglewood right now.
Yeah, rivalry game in Gateway in terms of a good rivalry game, but here's an interesting score that just popped up. Riverside 28, St. Augustine 27 in the third quarter, so the Riverside Generals banging with St. Augustine. St. Augustine's defense has struggled 2 weeks in a row, and it's one thing to have Bowles gouge you for a little bit. Another thing to have a winless Riverside team doing that to you. And again, it's still early in that game and just started the second half. But wow, surprising. 28 points by Riverside against St. Augustine.
Yeah, Brian Braddock will not be happy about that. They're going to halftime in St. Johns County. Creekside 21-7. You saw Creekside try for a long field goal there at the end of the half. Pretty decent kick, came up just short. So again, 21-7 Creekside over Bartram at the halftime break. A surprise in St. Johns County.
Yeah, very surprising to me, the halftime score in the Creekside Bartram game. And yeah, very surprised that it's 21-7 in that game. Bartram's offensive struggles have continued in this game as well, like we've seen all season.
A game we haven't talked yet about tonight, but again, you just kind of, at this point, you start feeling bad for the kids from Sandalwood. We got Atlantic Coast in a district game, I believe. Atlantic Coast Sandalwood, 35-0 AC in the third quarter.
Not surprising. Sandalwood is, again, in a state of rebuilding and struggling a little bit still. That's a district game for the Saints and Stingrays, so it's going to probably come down to Atlantic Coast and Creekside for that district championship, and I think I know which way I'm leaning on that one.
Yeah, Oakleaf has taken a 21-7 lead over Hawthorne. And let's get to some of the teams that are playing out of the area. We mentioned Rains and Lake Mary. Major step up, not in competition, because Rains is the better team this year, but in student population. I mean, Lake Mary's 7A. What is Rains? 4A, I believe?
3A.
3A. Wow. So you're talking about 4 steps in classification. Rains is on the road tonight in Orlando against Lake Mary. They lead by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, 17-3 for the Vikings, and not surprised they're winning that game at all. I picked them to win that game. I thought it would be more of a shootout type of game than it is a low-scoring game so far. Dan DeWong, a field goal for Rains, Timothy Cole, and, Rains is really, really good. And I think going down there playing a Lake Mary team that played for a state championship game last year, and they're handling Lake Mary and a Notre Dame committed quarterback, and Noah Grubbs, who's a 4-star, not having success at all against Rains.
And then another team that's traveled far away tonight, University Christian, as we talked about, David Penland of UC. This is what he does. He's been to North Carolina in the regular season for a game. He's gone to Key West for a game. Tonight he's in Tampa, taking on Tampa Catholic. Little bragging rights on the line, Jacksonville versus Tampa. We got a low-scoring defensive battle. I have it in the third quarter right now. UC up 7-0.
Hey, and UC is a really, really good team. David Penland III loves these games at least once a year. You've seen him take some wild out-of-area games during his time. And a lot of coaches like this. A lot of coaches who have teams that are expected to dial it in and go have a deep playoff run, they like this. Bowles loves doing it. Matt Toblin, Josh Hoekstra, and he was at Clay. They like playing these games because it gives you a little bit of taste, a team bonding thing. You go out of the area, get on a long bus ride, and do that. And University Christian playing Tampa Catholic feels like a playoff type game.
Has this always been a thing with teams traveling, or is it something we've seen more in the regular season in the last decade or so?
I think more in the regular season last decade or so, especially as you've gone away from from having all these in-area games in a sense. I remember for years that teams didn't even go out of the core 5-county area. They played here locally, but I think you have to get out and experience a little bit of that away from the area, because other than that, you're playing the same guys. You're not getting a taste of outside of the area. So, yeah, I think it's something we're going to continue to see more and more of.
Maybe a little bit of a surprise here. Actually, it's not maybe. It is a surprise here. Again, at halftime out in Baker County, I got First Coast 13-7 over the Wildcats right now.
Yeah, not too surprising there. Expect that to be a little bit low scoring of a game, and it is just that. Another one right now, a little surprised at this score. Oakleaf 21-7 over Hawthorne in the second quarter. So Knights looking to get back after a loss last year to one of the best programs in the state in Hawthorne. Looks like they're well on their way to doing that if they can keep that going.
14-6, Trinity Christian leads NFEI, and that's something you and I were going to talk about, not only with NFEI, but Duval Charter as well. Jamal Fudge, the former Jaguar, the head coach at NFEI. D. Webb, who started Ed White, also a former Jaguar, one of his main assistant coaches at NFEI. And then Duval Charter, good grief, the head coach is Aaron Beasley. You got Donovan Darius, got other former Jaguars over there. We know about Mo Williams coaching Providence. I love seeing former Jaguars give back to the game of high school football locally in the area. Of course, it all started with Brunell at
Brunell.
Episcopal about a decade ago.
That's right. Yeah, Mark Brunell, our former colleague here at News for Jacks, was the Episcopal Eagles coach, led them to their best seasons in school history before taking their job with the Detroit Lions. And it's really cool to see that because, you and I remember these guys in their playing days. I remember talking to Brunell and Donovan Darius and Beasley and all those guys back in the locker room when I was a writer with the paper. So it's cool to see those guys who you thought were just these mythical creatures when they play in uniforms and jerseys and helmets on Sundays, and now they're giving back to kids in their area. Certainly really good to see that, especially Beasley at Duval Charter, knowing you're not going to win a lot of games, but you're still coaching those guys up and giving them knowledge and really wanting them to have the high school football experience, but also invest in them as young men and give back. And I think that's what especially Beasley and Darius and those guys at Duval Charter have done.
Well, and it's just great, too, because, again, they don't have to coach. I mean,
Yeah.
they're obviously set financially. They got all sorts of other things going on, but they want to give back. And not only do they want to give back to the game, they're giving back here locally. I think it's absolutely terrific. And you can even lump Seatric Faison at Fletcher. Technically a former Jaguar, right? Brian Allen, a former Florida State Seminole who was in the NFL, Lake City, Columbia. And countless other guys that made it big at the playing level are now giving back at the high school coaching level.
Yeah, hey, that's, I don't know, it just shows you how much impact that football had on those guys. Seatric Faison, and I've told Seatric this, but my first assignment was, or actually one of my first assignments at the Times Union was covering Seatric's third game at Fletcher when he was a freshman. So you see that, and then you follow these guys' careers through high school, through college. Seatric played in the NFL. You follow his career, and you see him come back to his alma mater. Brian Allen is the same thing. He did a great job there at Lake City, Columbia. Went to Florida State, drafted, played in the NFL with the Rams. Demetric Jackson, who was on Florida's national championship team. He's been back coaching in Columbia County for years, first at Fort White, then to Columbia, now back to Fort White. So really cool to see the impact that football, the game of football, had on those guys at so many levels. And they have returned to really where it all started as they give back to the young generation.
Again, a couple of scores we have not gotten into. We mentioned Duval Charter. Tough night for them right now. I got Christ Church 35-6 over Duval Charter. Yulee's going to go to 4-0. They got a running clock on McLaughlin. I'll say this about Kyle Doherty, the head coach of Yulee. He's got quite the schedule.
Yeah.
Right, Union County, Charlton County. McLaughlin, where are they?
Down in Lake Wales.
Okay, my mother, I used to summer vacation in Lake Wales.
How about that?
My grandparents used to live in Lake Wales. Never heard of McLaughlin, but nevertheless, Yulee's down there, and Kyle Doherty and the Hornets are about to go to 4-0 on the year.
4-0, yeah, and I think a big clash against West Nassau on deck too. So West Nassau heading towards a win tonight. They're up 28-16 over Hamilton County. So it looks like, barring crazy comebacks by McLaughlin or Hamilton County, West Nassau and Yulee are going to enter their Nassau County Showdown next week undefeated.
There are a lot of surprises on the scoreboard. We'll give you a complete scoreboard update. We'll kind of set the scene on what's to come tonight on both Channel 4 and 1010XL. And we got some pretty good finishes coming up, too. A lot of games are very close, including one of the big upsets brewing right now, Riverside 28-27 over St. Augustine in the third quarter. He is Justin Barney. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. This is the Friday Night Lights on 4+, and we are presented by Farah and Farah. We'll bring you the Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters, scoreboard update. And Justin Barney, as we look at the Superior Fence and Rail scoreboard, a couple of things jump out, including something brewing over there at Riverside, the backyard. They lead St. Augustine 28-27. That game is getting late in the third quarter.
Yeah, no Samorian we go tonight for the Yellow Jackets, but he's not playing defense. Yellow Jackets have not been able to stop Riverside. 28 points allowed to a winless team. Brian Braddock prides himself on defense. I know he is not going to be happy with this one tonight if things hold now. 28 points, different in giving up 35 points to Bowles and then 28 to Riverside. Not good defensively with Nice on deck.
You know, we would ask this in the college game. I'll ask you in the high school game. Big win over Bowles last week. The game against Nice next week. Riverside sandwiched in the middle. Could that be playing a factor?
Yeah, I think that is possibility, yeah, but a big game, and you come out after last week and you laid an egg for two quarters, a little over 2 quarters now defensively. You got to turn that down and get a better grasp on the defense. A lot of young guys on that defense, so maybe that is it. But coaches traditionally, they look at a game like a homecoming game or something like that, where there's all these distractions, and it's like that's one of the more difficult weeks as coaches to actually coach and get your players focused. These are teenagers, and they worry about girlfriends and dates and dances and all that stuff, homecoming. And then when you're talking about Nice on deck, you're coming off a Bowls win. This is almost like that trap game in the middle where you think you can do no wrong, and you're focused on maybe something down the line and not on what's in front of you. So I'm sure that for Brian Braddock and Brandon James and the staff over there, trying to refocus those guys and say, hey, be in this moment right now. We've got a tough game against a winless team that's hungry to get a win, and we got to do something about it. So, yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Speaking of Nice, they've added a touchdown. They lead Fletcher 21-6 in the third quarter, and Mandarin has added a touchdown. They lead Bradford County now 14-0 in the third quarter.
Yeah, it's kind of what we thought would be a tough physical defensive game, and Bradford just with not enough offense. It's kind of been the story. Again, Bradford's only allowed 14 points. That's pretty impressive. They've not given up more than 12 all season, so Mandarin has already surpassed that. But Bradford is banging. Mandarin has been mowing teams down, and really good showing from Bradford's defense tonight, but also the Mandarin offense to generate those points and get on the board. And 14 may be all they need.
It was a tough night for Fleming Island a week ago in that loss to Oakleaf. They've rebounded nicely against another in-county rival. Fleming Island leads Orange Park 26-7 at the half. Speaking of Oakleaf, intriguing game against Hawthorne. That's Cornelius Ingram's team, the former Gator. They're always traditionally very good. Oakleaf lost this game last year. They lead it by 2 touchdowns tonight at halftime.
Yeah, and that's a test game for Oakleaf and Christopher Foy, a team that beat them last year. And Hawthorne, again, you can't look at just the classification because they're a small school, very small rural school. They beat Oakleaf last year, a big 6A program. So you got to look at the quality of competition, and Hawthorne is very, very good. You can't just look at the classification they're in. This would be a huge win for Christopher Foy and Oakleaf, especially with Bowls on deck.
We talked about Episcopal being the under-the-radar undefeated teams, or one of them. They've cut into Providence's lead. It's now 21-13 in the third quarter as Episcopal looks to mount that comeback.
Yeah, and that would be a huge win for Marcus Wells and company because I think Providence is better than its winless record suggests. And they've had a little bit of a rivalry the last few years, dating back to when Mark Brunell was at Episcopal, or even Brunell was at Providence as well, and Baselli over there with him. So, yeah, I think those guys have a good rivalry that dates back 10, 12, 15 years, and it's a good one brewing tonight.
If Beachside pulls this off over Ponte Vedra, I got 20-13 at halftime. Biggest win in program history?
It's probably close because this is the year for Beachside that they've had circled on the calendar. All these underclassmen have been starting for 3 years. They're seniors. A lot was expected. You go out and lay an egg in week 1 on the road. People kind of write you off and leave you for dead because your quarterback is not playing. And then to beat a Ponte Vedra team, who I was getting ragged this week after doing my Super 10 that I didn't have Ponte Vedra ranked. But, hey, Beachside is banging with them, and they lead right now. And Beachside and Cole Rosendahl, the quarterback at Ponte Vedra, and Jack Berquist have been video gaming numbers. Cole has been throwing right. I mean, unbelievable start to the season for Cole Rosendahl. He was knocking at the door of 1,000 yards passing going into this game. Jack Berquist, a big receiver for Ponte Vedra, so would be a huge win. Probably the rank up there with the biggest wins in program history.
Turquoise Creek is a weird team to figure out. They had a running clock put on them last week in a loss to Bishop Kenny. They've come back this week, and they're about to put a running clock on Clay. They lead the Blue Devils 35-7 in the third quarter.
Yeah, every team in St. Johns County is solid. And Turquoise Creek with Kevin Doling down there doing a good job. Took over after Zach Harbison left after spring. They're doing good. They're in that growth area in World Golf Village, and you got to be in that conversation of one of the best in St. Johns County. You got to be able to bang with them, and Turquoise Creek can certainly do that. They hammered Bartram Trail last year as well, so you know they're pretty good. And Clay is trying to stabilize and get things. They have not really been the same since Josh Hoekstra left.
When you think about Clay, they hired a coach that runs a spread offense. They were a physical, run-the-ball first type of team up until now. Right. He's trying to do something and implement something where he probably doesn't have the personnel to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to take a good year or two.
Yeah, they really. Jeff Gerke, another good dude. He was at Andrew Jackson, happens to be on the Florida Coaches Coalition, does a great job with them trying to drum up awareness and support to get high school coaches paid more and more fair market value. But, yeah, it's going to take some time. He replaced Kyle Kennard. The cupboard was bare when Jeff got there. So a lot of rebuilding needs to happen, and I've had this conversation with Clay County coaches before. They're in a tough spot because Clay County kids, your open enrollment, you could go anywhere. Those Clay kids are going to Middleburg, they're going to Fleming, they're going to Oakleaf, because that's what kids do. They follow the money train in terms of where that visibility is, where that good success is, and it's not at Clay, so those kids can take other options in the county.
Does Clay County need to do something about that?
Open enrollment now has really just has changed the way games have changed the way the games are played. I mean, you had the Leon Straughter, the quarterback at Miami Northwestern, led him to state championship last year, just transferred to American Heritage this week.
Yeah.
That's the state of the game where it is now. As long as open enrollment exists, you're going to have kids leaving and following the money train. So I don't think Clay County can do anything like that at all. But getting ready to start the second half here between Bartram and Creekside in our Varsity 4 game of the week. It's 21-7 Creekside. The Knights have been putting it on Bartram Trail, and another dismal offensive showing from Bartram Trail to start, and not a good game in front of the home crowd for the Bears and head coach Corey Johns.
Well, let's be honest, too. I mean, if Bartram loses this game at home to a winless rival in Creekside, the natives are going to be restless down there at Bartram Trail.
I think the natives were already restless going into this game, and unless you string something together and get this going in the second half, it's going to be staring at 0-4 in the face. And I think I'm saying this, and I don't have it in front of me, and I don't know. I think Bartram Trail started 0-4 one year and ended up going on a tear and getting to the state semifinals. Something that pops out to my mind. That was under Daryl Sutherland, I want to say about 10, 12 years ago. And they had a little bit of a tragedy inspiring. A guy named Aubrey Thompson was in a wreck and traumatic brain injury and all that, and they kind of rallied behind that. And I believe it was an 0-4 start for them, and they just rattled off an unbelievable finish and reached the state semifinals. That can't exactly remember the exact year, but so it can be done. But you can't lose a game like this.
No.
To your biggest rival like this.
No, people will not be happy about that. And what a win it would be for Creekside. They were probably the underdog coming in, no question. Another team in St. Johns County having a lot of success tonight, Menendez, a 33-6 lead over Parker in the third quarter. And I know, Justin, we talked about it in hour number 1 as we get ready for second half action between Bartram and Creekside. But the Brain Bowl is wrapping up. They're in the fourth quarter at Stanton. Paxton all over their rival, 35-3. But a lot of respect for both teams. One of the better football rivalries in the area when Paxton and Stanton get together.
Yeah, I love the Brain Bowl. And it's two teams that have a serious academic prowess on the line. And when you have that football experience, this game means a lot to these kids. I mean, the coaching staff, the kids, the alumni base. We have a Paxton grad who works here, Sierra, and I covered her playing softball back in the day, and she always rips on Stanton, and it's so funny to hear the conversation between Stanton and Paxton grads, and it's really a cool rivalry to have in town. And beyond that, those are unbelievably talented student bodies at that school.
Yeah.
Unbelievably.
All right, second half action, St. Johns County, Bartram Trail, and Creekside. Creekside up a couple of touchdowns. Needless to say, Justin, this is a big opening drive for the Bears.
Yeah, and you got Arthur Lewis. I don't understand why he's not been able to get free a little bit more. And
he just laid the lumber right there.
He is a very good player, one of the area's best running backs. He's in that mix with Caleb Madison, Xander Edwards, and he just has not been able to get going this year. Colson Baum at quarterback, he took over last year for Jaden Weatherly, who's now at Bowles, and they just have not been able to figure out how to get that offense going, and Bartram is going to need to get something picked back up and moving. Corey Johns and his staff, I'm sure, trying to figure out what ails them and how to get things back on track, but it has been an unfamiliar start. You talk about Bartram Trail and the long line of quarterbacks who have gone there, from Josh Sanfilippo in those first years to Kyle Parker to Jason Young to Nate Peterman, PJ Blazowski, so many good players there. And this offense now is just really struggling. So you got to hope that that Colson Baum can get it figured out and turned on before the season is too late.
Well, needless to say, Bartram is better than their 0-3 record would indicate. But at some point, you are what your record says you are. And if they lose tonight, I don't know how many weeks we can come in here and say, I mean, and next week, are they going to be better than their 0-4 record would indicate? At some point, that narrative has to change.
Yeah, and you're right. You are what your record says it is. And the scoreboard and win-loss column tell that tale. It doesn't matter if you're losing close games or losing blowouts. You're still winless at this point. So, Bartram, you got to get that. You got to get things righted and the ship back on track. And it starts with that young man right there under center, Colson Baum.
Let me give you another score that we haven't got to yet. We talked about him earlier. West Nassau looks like they're going to remain undefeated. They lead Hamilton County 34-16. So Gunnar Cox and the Warriors look like they're going to keep that 0 in the loss column.
I love the story out of West Nassau. Fernandina Beach as well. They're up 21-7 on Fort White. I predicted Fort White to win that game. They had a big win last week. So Fort White headed to Fernandina Beach, and Fernandina is putting it on 21-7 right now. Blake Willis and the Pirates looking like they are going to get to 5-0. So the unbelievable start in Nassau County continues for another week. We got Fernandina Beach looking at possibly 5-0 if they hold them off. West Nassau looking at 5-0. They're pulling away from Hamilton County. Yulee is going to be 4-0. Really such a great story this year in Nassau County. Hilliard is 2-1 as well. Really, really good story to have 4 schools in a small county, and all 4 of those schools are balling this year.
St. Augustine has regained the lead against Riverside, and they've gotten a 2-point conversion. The Yellow Jackets now lead Riverside 35-28 late in the third quarter. Again, a back-and-forth game out there.
Yeah, and I'm surprised at that score, but I'm not surprised that St. Augustine has regained the lead. Very good offense. You just got to have some defense to stop them. Another one, Rains, 24-3 over Lake Mary. I've said this multiple times. Lake Mary has got a Notre Dame committed quarterback, a 4-star, Noah Grubbs, who has been phenomenal. I remember talking to Toby Bullock a few years ago, and he said nobody's winning 7A with Noah Grubbs there because he is that good of a quarterback. He's been throwing some dimes since he's been a freshman, and played for a state championship last year, got eviscerated by Venice, which is no surprise. But Rains going down there and putting 24-3 up on them right now at Lake Mary is darn impressive.
We'll come back. We'll put a bow on this week's edition of the Friday Night Lights on 4+. We are presented by Farah and Farah. The night's just starting for Justin and I. He's got a lot of work to do on the TV side. I got a lot of work to do on the radio side. One more segment to go, another scoreboard update, as we'll wrap things up next under the Friday Night Lights here on 4+. Final segment, Friday Night Lights on 4+, presented by Farah and Farah with Justin Barney, the hacker Ryan Green with you. Justin, we'll go down the scoreboard one more time. Let's also go back to St. Johns County, do a live look-in out there at Bartram Trail and Creekside. Third quarter action. They're in the midst of a timeout right now, but Bartram Trail has not been able to cut in to this Creekside lead. The Knights still up by 14.
Yeah, 21-7, and it's been all Creekside and nothing on offense for Bartram. So a disappointing effort so far from the Bears as they are staring an 0-4 start right in the eyes unless they put something together in the second half. Another one, speaking of St. Johns County, St. Augustine has gone back up in front of Riverside 41-35.
Wow.
It has been an offensive shootout. Defense is optional in that game at the backyard, so it seems like whoever has the ball last is going to win. St. Augustine, our number 1 team in the Super 10, but maybe not after this week, considering how this game has gone and what Rains is doing to Lake Mary. Lake Mary getting paddled in their own backyard as the Rains Vikings handling business down there. I believe it's 30-3 at this point now in that game, or 24-3 down there in Lake Mary. Still 24-3 Rains over Lake Mary. So, yeah, a lot of wild scores here to me, Hacker, in week 4.
And Bowles has put a running clock on Bishop Kenny. Bowles up 36-0. Again, maybe not surprised. I'm not surprised that Bowles is winning the game, but I thought after Bishop Kenny beating University Christian, Bishop Kenny putting running clock on Toccoa Creek, I'm pretty surprised it's 36-0 Bowles.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's that. I thought it'd be a much closer game, but Bowles was motivated after last week's game, and I said it before. I think Manny Wellington, defensive coordinator, and Matt Toblin jumped all over those defenders and said, we gave up 40 points to St. Augustine on our home field last week. We are going to make sure that does not happen again, tighten up. And they have put a bullseye on Caleb Madison, and he has got nothing. He's perhaps the area's best running back, but Bowles has neutralized him tonight. And
congratulations to Matt Toblin. He's made my life incredibly difficult with a running clock. I will be skedaddling from the Channel 4 studios here in about 5 minutes or so to make it back to 1010XL World Headquarters for the radio version of Friday Night Lights. Justin, before we talk about your night here on Channel 4, a couple of scores that we want to get to. Again, Nice is going to beat Fletcher, it looks like. St. Augustine, Riverside, again, there's still some unknowns there, but St. Augustine is up by a touchdown. Games that are coming down to the wire. Oakleaf, 2 touchdowns up on Hawthorne. First Coast still up 6 on Baker County. Not a lot of games that are coming down to the wire. I'll give you one. Providence Episcopal, an 8-point game in the fourth quarter as Episcopal looking to come back.
Yeah, hey, Episcopal trying to maintain that undefeated mark. Providence, on the other hand, trying to get into the win column for the first time. Providence has played a tough schedule so far, so I think you've seen that a little bit tonight and being able to jump on Episcopal and maintain that.
Ponte Vedra has tied Beachside all square at 20-20 late in the third.
Yeah, very good one for in St. Johns County. That's a big, big battle there. Those guys are neighbors, not too far off 210 from Beachside off 210 to Ponte Vedra. So that is a massive game. Those two teams really compared to one another. Very similar student bodies, very similar passing quarterbacks in that game. So I think that is turning out to be a darn good game.
When you take a look at the entire night, the entire scoreboard, either on a positive or negative, kind of biggest surprises to you here as we're almost at the 9 o'clock hour?
I don't think how you can look at the scoreboard and say anything other than Riverside St. Augustine to me. And Raines would be, I'd say Raines would be a close second, but I knew Raines was going to win this game, and I think their defense would play as well. Going against Noah Grubbs, Notre Dame quarterback, they are handling them. But St. Augustine, 41-35 over a winless Riverside team right now. Jaden DeLon has played phenomenal for Riverside, trying to lead them to an upset win. I'm surprised. That's my biggest takeaway from tonight is St. Augustine's struggles to stop Riverside.
They've gone to the fourth quarter on Greenland Road. Mandarin up on Bradford, 14-0. What do you take away from that game? Mandarin looks like they're going to win. Is that more Mandarin being good? Are you still confident where Bradford is? What are your thoughts there?
I think that's a very defensive game for both those guys. Mandarin had been plowing through teams. Bradford is such a good defensive team, but Mandarin needed a test. I mean, you're not going to be tested playing Sandalwood and winning 42-0. You're going to be tested playing Bradford and slogging through a 14-0 game in the fourth quarter. That's the games you learn from, not these blowout games like you've had early on. So Mandarin is going to take a lot from this game, especially with IMG on deck.
And look at here, Creekside looking to add to their lead. Again, Creekside already leads 21-7. We're middle portion of the third quarter on the Channel 4 game of the week between them and Bartram Trail. And if Creekside goes up 3 scores, Justin, that may be lights out.
Yeah, I think we're looking at lights out time if they get one. Davis Baldwin has got 2 touchdowns already, one on a pass from Mr. Sperry there, who's throwing the ball, looking long, can't connect, but he has got a touchdown catch and a touchdown run. So Davis Baldwin in the end zone twice tonight for Creekside, and it has been all night tonight in the battle of Longleaf Pine.
If Creekside holds on to win, what will this do for their season? They'd be 1-3. We've talked from the Bartram side of things. A win like this for Creekside could rejuvenate that team for the second half of their season.
Yeah, and when you've played 3 tough teams, you've played Mandarin 3-0, you played Nice 3-0, you played Spruce Creek 3-0. So Sean McIntyre and his staff are saying, hey guys, believe in the work you're doing. You're showing up, you're practicing hard each day. You're playing tough teams. You're not playing Little Sisters of the Poor and losing. You're playing elite teams. And one of these days, it's going to work. You're going to get the win. And what better way to do it, if you're Sean McIntyre and the Knights, to do it against your biggest rival, to have that kind of launch you into the second half of your season and your district slate, too.
As we begin to wrap up, tell us what's coming up tonight on Channel 4.
Well, we got games all over the place. We're going to have highlights from this one that you're watching right now, the Creekside Bartram game, and all others from around the area. Nice and Fletcher, Bradford and Mandarin, all kinds of games coming up to you tonight at 10:30. And if you miss it there, we're going to have all the highlights on Sports for Jacks Instagram as well too. That's a very popular site for players after games.
You get Justin Barney on the Channel 4 side. I'll be with you on the radio side, 1010 a.m. and 92.5 FM. Starting here in about 20 or 25 minutes, we'll have the Friday Night Lights postgame. Victoria's head coaches all over Northeast Florida. And next week, we will be in this studio. There's a number of very good games, but I think everybody, Justin, is looking forward to St. Augustine and Nice. What a scene that should be in St. Johns County.
St. Augustine and Nice, plus Balls, Oakleaf. But man, if St. Augustine can hang on and beat Riverside, you're going to have an undefeated St. Augustine, undefeated Nice, and perhaps St. Johns County's best rivalry, St. Augustine and Nice. I've covered so many of those games. Every one of them has been epic. Nice won last year in overtime, stopping St. Augustine on a 2-point conversion try to win that game and launch them into an undefeated regular season. So expect another one next week.
You'll get all the finals on Channel 4 and on 1010XL. Thank you for watching and listening to the Friday Night Lights on 4+. Thank you to the great folks at Farah and Farah for bringing it to you. He is Justin Barney. I'm the hacker Ryan Green, and we'll see you right back here next week under the Friday Night Lights.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jacks, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.